It's Sunday, August 29th, 2021. Now, few things I'm watching for my one guy elsewhere that I'm trying to shed this and get to. This is a problem. It's using this as a shield, which I think is a problem, to give it false hope that it's doing something correct when the world is on fire and he's part of it. Then he's got an ego, an arrogance, and a human script that's even more dangerous to anything that's going to be useful at any point. So now what happens is down here it says New Orleans International, and then it says LA. Now here's the thing, the state of Louisiana, when we did that Louisiana purchase, right, it abbreviates out to LA. However, in bigger news, LA is a city in the state of California, which its abbreviate is CA. Now, his accent is what I use. I hate it. This is this humdrum, everything's fucking wrong. And this is so American. In that American has so many faces, it doesn't even know. It doesn't have two faces. Like that match from east to west. It has so many different variants in it that it's confused about it. Like America's having its own identity crisis. Russia should know, since they're like ancient and strong in their beautiful Iber to Siberia project of people with culture and morals and respectables, unlike the deplorables I got going on in America.
At this point, ever since and before Biden talked about the ISIS-K threat to the airport.
Now watch. Here's the storm in Louisiana where this guy is at the moment. And here, watch. Why does that move?
East, southeast.
Is that his truth? Is that his truth meter?
There, the window is narrowing, which means you would think the urgency for ISIS-K to carry out an attack is growing, because soon there won't be a U.S. military presence there, as the U.S. also works to evacuate
That
as many
is a problem.
U.S. citizens in the country as possible. As the U.S. draws down the number of troops it has at the airport, security becomes an even greater risk.
Louisiana.
An even greater question.
Where's that?
Why there's an urgency not only to get U.S. troops out before that August 31st deadline, up until that deadline, but also that urgency for any terror groups to try to carry out an attack against the remaining U.S. presence.
We'll get back to you, or and let us know if there's going to be a Pentagon briefing. We'll be anxious to hear.
He looks like Peter Romer, Peter Ottoman Romer, which is Jason Romer, 1976 problem in Ottoman Empire. But he looks like the closest relative to my own, which is really scary, an Austrian-Hungarian, slightly dressed up skin color in Vanity Fair.
I mean, there's definitely that possibility. Certainly, I think I was a little surprised we had another
this
one quite
handsome gentleman is in Venice, LA. But it says he's international. And now here's the thing. His accent. I met this guy, I think his name was Nick, when I was like 15, 16. I went to, right after that Joe Cardinal problem in Melville, I went out to Warner's, or Werner, whatever, like landmark thing Lou and Lynn sent me for some teenage version of it. And when I was there in Manhattan, like, oh my God, the handsomest guy I'd ever seen walked in to a room and had this accent. And he told me he was from Texas. And I'm like, yeah? Because that's not the Texas accent I've ever heard. And he goes, how do you know? And I go, because I just know. I was like, but I do like your accent. I was like, I just can't place where. I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, I would say more UK. I mean, it sounds much more UK than it does Texas, USA. So, There is a big difference.
According to US official I spoke to, that this particular either suicide bomber or car bomb was, quote, loaded and ready to go. So they assessed that they were dealing with a very specific immediate threat there. I should point out reports from the scene do suggest possibly more casualties than the one suicide bomber killed, which was suggested to me, but I know my colleagues Jake Tapper and Barbara Starr have been
And I've never seen him, never heard of this guy. No idea names. They're really irrelevant.
At this early stage.
They're just cattle tags at this point.
The phrasing used around the possibilities of civilian casualties does suggest that they are actually looking at that possibility. But at the same time, it feeds into a broader picture of the growing threat to the airport, and that is, of course, increasing as the numbers of Americans on it decrease. We don't have detail as...
The amount of Prometheus equipment readily, available and assigned the proper script is so few and far between in this disgusting setup, meaning hell, with Ragnarok upon us and my Hellenistic whatever. And the other thing is that really quantifiably is disturbing is the fact that when I talk about medical equipment, medical device, medical sales, chemical sales, and so on and so forth, there is some dumb fucking useless league who's just outside of seminary where apparently they banned and they put equality in there dangerously in this new shitbag system. And so it lessened the amount of units with proboscis of useful feature for my personal need to defend certain areas that are even more dangerous. Time consumption, let's say, and who's borrowing time and not paying for it accurately, and then causing massive catastrophic disturbances. That's where we're at right now at ZOSI, which is August 29th, 2021. So I had some really arrogant, nasty piece of the U.S. who's like, wait a minute, but our sons, her relatives need hospital administration and all this other stuff. And we were like, you do, but not in the way that you're building it. The title works at DVM when DVM is the Defense Ministry's veterans, not veterinary medicine of barn animals, extreme zoologists, and domesticated animals. Although those lines even get a little shady to explain. So that happened. And so what they did was they pre-sold out almost career slots. So the mainframe system built in these hospital advocates at hospital administration level in multiple cities under multiple names. But then with that new dumb fucking useless equality feature, what it built on one side, it built equally on the other. And at this particular spot, the equality is not set to sustain that hospital administration feature because there are other lesser organs and organizations that were not at what I would call equality. That needed to be stabilized as a foundation first, and then you can build on top of it. The humans did not listen at any gate. They were more concerned in self-indulgence and whatever. So hence the whole Olympic teams of individual non-essential equipment. And the numbers and exponents just keep building more and more dangerously and uselessly, and then causing catastrophic, irreversible effects. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza.
detail as to quite what number they're at the moment, and of course the evacuation operations are beginning to slow dramatically. The last 12-hour period, I think if my maths is correct, had about 900 people flown out, which is a significant reduction despite the sheer volume of aircraft that still appear to be going into that airport. That would suggest to me that they're also now involved much.
So at his accent level with the big gray Airbus, there's 7 tail fins. There's names on their tail fins. Now, there's a cooperative for each one of the Airbus. But, like, is there a station manager? Like, he has to give final approval on that? Because I'm not really sure that the teams, whatever their number and cooperative mannerisms are getting fed the appropriate back home stuff, and then it gets confusing because then you're airbusing out more problems and delivering them to where you left to defend your homeland. You went somewhere else. Right, why aren't those kids in that cooperative able to thwart the shit that they see in the place that they're working from entering a plane and being dropped off in their homeland? I mean, they're defending homeland from foreign. Don't they get a say, since they're the first ones to see and know things, that they don't want that showing up in Iowa Falls, or they don't want that showing up home, since they would have been home shooting at the border, but they got sent to foreign to do some other airport mission? Just curious, because I know that they have names, irrelevant names, in the grand schematic of things, but they know who they are in that cooperative. And there's documentation somewhere, and they get some voting share as to who gets on the plane and who doesn't. So I'm just curious, what happened to that, and why isn't this accent doing anything correct? Just curious. I'm sitting in the USA, in a POWMIA, would have been elsewhere, but you left me here unarmed and defenseless and helpless, and no communications, no less, except some spotlight trying to decipher what you dumb fucking useless humans need somewhere else to do the right thing. Now that you fucked everything up and I don't want to be here. Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.